Hello and welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation with me, your host Owen, the channel that brings you your team every single day, the channel that keeps you up to date with all the goings on at Rangers FC. If you need that update, guys, if you need to stay on top of the news, then the best way is to hit the sub, ring the notification bell, and we won't charge you a penny for any of the content. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you can hit the like as well, that would be greatly appreciated. We're going to talk a little bit about this man here, Mr. Fashion Sakala. We're also going to talk about Rangers defence as well. A little bit about Todd Cantwell and where he's at this moment in time. So let's start off with the big news about Fashion Sakala. Now, obviously, Fashion Sakala is someone who, it's fair to say, I think, greatly divides the Rangers fan base. There are a lot of people who really rate Fashion and, points to the fact that his numbers last season were very good indeed. His assists and goals ratios were both very good. And if you just look at that, you just look at the stats, you just look at the figures, the facts and figures, he looks a good player. Last season, 12 goals, 7 assists. That's 19 goal contributions in 29 league games. That looks all right, doesn't it? It looks decent. No goals, no assists in the League Cup, and no goals, no assists in the Champions League. But then again, let's face it, all the Rangers players were pretty pants in the Champions League last season. So on the face of it, it looks good. But then you've got another substantial group within the fan base that don't rate Fashion Sakala at all. Sakala's probably one of the most frustrating players on this squad. He really, he has all the pace in the world, yet doesn't seem to understand the offside rule, gets himself offside far too many times for a player with that sort of speed. You've got the two misses at crucial times. The open goal in the Viaplay League Cup final, I think, after Ken hit the post. And you've got also the open goal miss in the Scottish Cup semi-final at Hampden against that lot from across the city. So overall, you've just got to say that, it is a situation where he is very divisive on that matter. Sakala is a decent player, don't get me wrong. And my personal opinion is he's a squad player. He's not really a Rangers starter. You look at the quality of players we've brought in over the summer, the Danios, hopefully very soon, the Seamers, the Dessers, Tom Lawrence been back as well, Sam Lammers, got Cantwell can play in a forward role, Kieran Dowell can play in a forward role. Realistically, Fashion Sakala should, by rights, really find his game time severely limited this coming season. He really isn't in the same league as any of those players that I've mentioned. There's times when he is an absolute worldie. The Dundee United goal, for instance, last season. The St Mirren game where he cut in off the left wing and looked like vintage Iron Robin. Yet there's other times when he cuts in, falls over his own feet and loses the ball. He is a very, very frustrating player. Now, there is a story this morning in the press that Fashion Sakala has turned down a move to Saudi Arabia. Now, the rumor was that the Saudis had put a $4 million offer in for Fashion Sakala. That apparently is not going any further. Sakala does not want that move. He wants to stay at the club. Now, this is very disappointing. I think that if we could have got $4 million for Fashion Sakala, then it would have been a very, very good deal for us. Because we paid nothing for him. $4 million would have been a very, very good profit, and again, money we could have reinvested into the squad and into purchasing further players and really strengthening this squad. Look, I'm not saying that Fashion Sakala is top of the list when it comes to players departing this club. We do need to cut the squad. Don't get me wrong. There is a lot of trimming still needs to go on. I think, after last night, but it's not just, I suppose, after last night. After the last sort of 12 to 18 months, there is an awful lot of dead wood in this squad. This man, John Lundstrom, for me, needs to be sold. He's going to the last year of his deal. He's been awful for all but about 6 months of his Rangers career, that Europa League run. This man here, Borna Barisic, is absolutely dreadful. The guy cannot defend to save his life. He has this awful thing that he does as well. And there was an audible groan last night from the fans when he kept on doing it. Gets to halfway, checks, stops, turns back. The horseshoe is inbred into him. He's another one that needs to go. Kamara, Wright, I think all on that list. Ben Davis is another possibility as well. There is a lot of players that need to be shipped out of this club. A lot of deadwood that needs to be cut. I think what we've got to remember when it comes to the likes of Borna Barisic, John Lundstrom, and even to a lesser extent with Fashion Sakala, these are the players that have let us down on repeated occasions, have not been up to the task when it comes to playing, particularly that lot from across the city. We need a fresh start. We need to give these new players the best possible opportunities to succeed. And if we can raise money, like the $4 million we could have got for Sakala for the Saudi deal, then it's a shame that he didn't take that money. It's a shame that he didn't go. It's a shame that the club couldn't have kind of forced his hand, because at the end of the day, Rangers own his registration. Rangers own a Fashion Sakala. I know that doesn't sound great the way it's said, but if we want to accept a £4 million bid, then Fashion should be doing it and going. And I think it's a shame that he hasn't gone. Hopefully someone else will come in with a decent bid. Look, I don't think, like I said, he's top of the list. I'd rather see Matondo leave. Matondo, another absolutely awful player. But I do think that, it's a real shame that this move has not gone through and is not going to go through. I do know that I do think, though, that we should be selling Sakala at some point and raising some money. Perhaps not now, not with the initial departures, but certainly in the near future. Guys, let me know what you think on that. I know his numbers are good, but just for me, he's so glorious. He's inconsistent. Like I've said on a number of videos now, he goes from world beater to carpet beater in 0.1 of a second. So for me, that is something that I think we do need to address. And it's a shame that he hasn't taken the money and gone to Saudi. One of the things that really stood out for me last night, but not just last night, but over the last couple of seasons, has been the Rangers' defence. I do think the defence, look, don't get me wrong, I think the defence is a whole lot better when Connor Goldson's there. Again, I know that's going to be, I know that's going to be an unpopular opinion with some. I know there's lots that don't rate Connor Goldson, but our defence does look a whole lot better when Connor is there. He organises them, he communicates well, he leads them, he keeps them together. Yes, he has the odd mistake, but if Connor wasn't making those mistakes, he would be playing in the top echelons of the English Premier League. So Connor Goldson is a big miss, don't get me wrong. And I think a defence that looks like with Tav right back, or Sterling, Goldson, Suter and Ridvan is not a bad defence. And I think where we are lacking is perhaps in strength and depth. We have a lot of numbers in defence, don't get me wrong. We have an awful lot of centre-halves under contract at this club at this present moment of time. You look at the centre-backs we've got on under contract. Suter, King, Yefko can play there. Goldson, Davis, Lundstrom to some extent can also play there. There's a lot of centre-backs at the club, but there is, I think, a real lack of quality there. That is one thing that is lacking. There is a sad lack of talent underneath those starting two of Goldson and Suter. Suter's been outstanding this preseason, and like I said, I am a fan of Goldson. I do think he brings something to the game. If you look at the stats as well, the defense concedes twice as many goals when Goldson's not playing. So that is kind of like an undisputed fact that it is better when he's there. We do need to sign a centre half. I don't think it was top of Michael Beale's priorities. That was one thing. I think very much strengthening the forward areas was was the biggest priority. Yeah, they didn't look great last night, but I think that will come in time with a bit more time to gel, get their match fitness up, and get used to each other. But I think centre half is definitely a position we need to strengthen. Now, the three primary players that have been linked with a move to Rangers this summer is Charlie Cresswell of Leeds, pictured there in the England top. He led the England 21s this summer to the Euro Championship win. Austin Trusty of Arsenal, who was playing for Arsenal yesterday against FC Barcelona in Arsenal's 4-2 win over Barcelona. And Jonathan Panzer of Nottingham Forest, who spent last season on loan at Coventry City. Now, these deals, obviously, deals for these players come, they go, they're rumoured, there was talk that a bid for Cresswell had been turned down, later denied. There's talk that there was a £3 million bid put in for Trusty the other day, which was turned down. Arsenal want £5 million. I know, as I said in the video the other day, it is a complicated situation with Trusty, given the fact that he was transferred from a Stan Kroenke-owned club to a Stan Kroenke-owned club. So, kind of, where's the money gone? Jonathan Panzo, again, someone who is young, up and coming, but at times has looked rash, and there's a number of COD fans that don't rate him and are glad that he isn't coming back to the club next season. So is that the sort of player we want at Rangers? And I know there's a number of Rangers analysts that don't actually rate Panzo. For me, in order of preference for central defenders, that is my order of preference. Cresswell first, Trusty second, and Panzo a distant third. Trusty and Cresswell are better players. They read the game very well. They're very physical, good in the air, which is something that Ben Davies isn't, and physical, which is, again, something that Ben Davies isn't. Both of them can play left side centre back. Trusty can also play left back. It balances that out. The fact that if we obviously were to move Borna Barisic on, which I think we must do, the guy is useless. I think, we do need a centre back. There is, I think, one thing that game has shown last night, but like I said, not just that game, the whole of last season, we do need more quality strength in depth. We've got depth, but not quality strength in depth at the centre-back position. And we do need to strengthen there. So I really do hope that, over the next sort of few weeks as we lead up to the end of the transfer window, which closes at the end of August, that we get a centre-back through the doors and up that marble staircase. It really is, I think, a need for the club, and it's something we need to address. It's something that I think would be, perhaps we can overcome it in Scotland, like given the fact the standards other than that lot across the city are not that high. But, playing in European competition, you will be found out, as was shown last night, if your defence is not up to it. I mean, let's face it, those 3 goals last night, we gave Olympiacos the goals, again, the same way we did against that lot from across the city on multiple occasions last season. The defence was comic cuts. It was almost Marx Brothers-esque at times. And like I said, with the exception of John Souttar, and I think obviously with Connor Goldson returning, that will help. But we do need, I think, a centre-back sooner rather than later. Now, one player this season who has seemed to struggle during pre-season, and I think that's mainly how he's been used, is Todd Cantwell. I love Todd Cantwell. I think he's a fabulous player. I think the fact we've moved him back a bit has really damaged his game. I think he still is lacking a bit of match fitness as well. I think that's sort of contributing. And I think Todd will be brilliant this season. Don't get me wrong. I'm not slagging Todd Cantwell off. I am not belittling him. I'm not dragging him down. What I am saying is that we do need to perhaps use him a bit more effectively, use him in his a bit more further forward to influence the game a little bit more in this season upcoming. One thing I do want to see from Todd is him cutting this out. Now, I've watched this back now 5 or 6 times. It's not a penalty. You watch Cantwell, his legs are going before the keeper even touches him. He's anticipating the touch. Now, I think if that goes to VAR, it gets ruled out. It isn't given. Honestly, think, looking at decisions that have been made this season, last season, and in the EPL last season, I think that honestly gets ruled out. I think it's a Champions League game. It gets ruled out. Todd Cantwell is a great player. He doesn't need to do that. And I think he's not going to do himself any favors. It's like the old boy that cried wolf, isn't it? When it does matter, when it actually does happen, when he does get side down in the area, refs are going to think twice about giving him decisions because of the reputation, rightly or wrongly, he is starting to get going down a little too easily. Todd, I think you're brilliant. I think you're amazing. I think you're fantastic. But please cut that out of your game. You really do need to cut out that little bit of that simulation, which I think that was a little bit of last night. Again, feel free to disagree with me. Like I said, I'm not slagging him off. I'm not abusing him. I think he's brilliant. I love Todd Cantwell. I think he's one of our best players. But I do think he needs to stop doing that. That is definitely something that needs to be stopped. Also, last night it was reported that Jose Cifuentes underwent his medical, and that was completed, and the deal will be done very, very soon for Jose Cifuentes. That is upcoming. That would be great news. And a midfield, I think, of Cifuentes, Raskin, and Cantwell is certainly one that you will lick your lips at and wet your wet the appetite of the Rangers fan base. Still no news on when De Neo's deal will be completed yet, but it is thought to be done by the end of next week. Whether or not he's available to playing for Kilmarnock again, we do not know yet. Also revealed to this morning was that Rangers Champions League third qualifying round first leg with either Servette or Genk will be shown live on BBC Scotland on Wednesday the 9th of August. Sports scene presented by former Rangers striker Stephen Thompson will be on air from Ibrox at 7:30, 15 minutes ahead of kickoff. It will be simultaneously broadcast on BBC Scotland channel, iPlayer, and BBC Sport Scotland. So good news, you'll be able to access that game for free. Well, let me know, guys, what you think of what we've covered this afternoon, this evening, this morning, whenever you're taking this video. Please hit that like and also help us to continue to build the channel by pressing that sub, ringing that notification bell. Thanks for watching. 2 things, guys. I want you to do 2 things for me. Number 1, smash the like. And number 2, remember, we are the people.